that was a little bit horrifying, but thank you. Thank you so much, my gosh. Okay, I'll start with the really depressing stuff first, and then end with the positives, right? If you've heard me before, you know that this is democracy's existential moment. And it's one that Aristotle, the real one, would not recognize because we couldn't have imagined it. The dangers that he could never have imagined that technology has brought about with such speed and scale. 72% of the world is now under authoritarian rule. Rolling it back to 1978, that's VDEM. We are, each of us in democracies, electing illiberal leaders democratically. At the Nobel Lecture in 2021, I said that an atom bomb exploded in our information ecosystem, and it has silently destroyed and continues to destroy the foundations democracy requires to survive. Aristotle warned that democracies decay when demagogues exploit popular passions. Those words are so... Today, that decay is machine. It's algorithmically engineered. Technology platforms have become weapons of mass destruction to democracy. From a 2018 MIT study on social media, lies spread 6 times faster. That's 2018, before Elon Musk bought Twitter and turned it to X. And our data in the Philippines in 2017 showed that women were attacked at least 10 times more than men, but that these lies spread even faster if you lace it with fear, anger, and hate. We have seen it everywhere around the world. Online violence is real-world violence. And the 3 sentences that I've said over and over since 2016. Without facts, you can't have truth. Without truth, you can't have trust. Without these 3, we have no shared reality. You cannot have journalism. You cannot have democracy. Aristotle identified this shared reality as essential to democracy. He called it a common understanding that allows citizens to debate and find the common good. That's what we're missing, our shared reality. Today, we live with impunity in both the physical world, where wars rage from Ukraine, Gaza, Sudan, Myanmar, you name it, and to the virtual world, where our minds and our emotions are manipulated for profit. This is, you heard this earlier, but this is the deadliest period for journalists in recorded history. More than 240 killed in Gaza. Gaza alone, more than all the journalists who died in World War I, World War II, Vietnam, and the former Yugoslavia combined. Journalists are being targeted and killed with impunity. When platforms thumb the scale of distribution, when algorithms carry out editorial agendas programmed with coded bias, we face oligarchy, we started calling them brawligarchies, wearing democracy's mask, power concentrated in the hands of the unelected few who are manipulating the many, those of us at unprecedented scale. Aristotle argued that democracy requires citizens who look beyond self-interest for the common good. He says, we cultivate virtue. But how do we do that when big tech controls and corrupts our public information ecosystem? What does civic engagement look like in the age of exponential lies? I go back to Aristotle, and I was told that he walked these grounds, right? He called it, the answer begins, he said, with parrhesia, speaking truth boldly, even at personal risk. That's the role of journalists. We hold the line because democracy depends on those willing to speak truth when power demands silence. I joke all the time that in the Philippines, when I wrote How to Stand Up to a Dictator, the chilling effect was Siberia. It wasn't chilling anymore, and it's really sad to see that moving in every other part of the world. There are costs to speaking, and you know this. In 14 months, the Duterte administration filed 11 criminal charges against me. I began to workflow posting bail. It's nearly a decade later. I've won 10 of the 11 charges, but I still need Supreme Court approval to travel, to be here with you today. But I'm not in jail. So don't listen when your lawyers tell you you're being foolish. And I'm not only here, where's Duterte? In March this year, he was arrested for alleged crimes against humanity, and he is waiting for his trial. He is in detention at The Hague, waiting for his trial. Impunity can end. Today, I would argue that since the attacks are happening at the cellular level of a democracy, at every person in every democracy around the world, every person in this room, that the response has to start with you. And that's the question I asked in my book, How to Stand Up to a Dictator, right? It was a very simple question, and I had to confront that question, and I ask you to confront it. What are you willing to sacrifice for the truth? Because impunity breaks down into 3 battles. I'll give you 3 battles and 3 solutions, right? First, the battle for truth and trust. When lies spread 6 times faster than facts, when journalists are murdered to kill the witness, truth itself is under siege. Platform accountability is not censorship, it's democracy's immune system. 2, the battle for human agency. Are you really independently choosing things? Algorithms reward outrage over empathy, hijacking our biology for profit. They trap us in confirmation bubbles, making enemies of neighbors. These are not inevitable. They're conscious design choices that are meant to keep you scrolling to make more money, right? We can design for human dignity instead of big tech profit. 3, the battle for the future. Will we be governed by rule of law or by dictators and kleptocrats? Will artificial intelligence augment human potential or replace human judgment? The mother of all battles is information integrity, seeing the difference between fact and fiction, creating a shared reality. If we win that battle for information integrity, we can win the rest. But if we lose that, we lose it all. No climate change, science, right? All of this goes away. The solutions, I'm not going to leave you depressed before we go into our questions. Solution 1, 3 battles, 3 solutions. Journalism reimagined. This is brought to you partly with the New York Times, right? But we have to return to our fundamental mission, serving the public, not platforms, choosing verification over virality, to build communities of trust, that word, the communities of trust, where facts matter more than clicks. Second, technology, accountability, and I use these words, radical collaboration. We need public interest technology and federated networks of trusted news organizations. One news organization can't make it alone now, right? At Rappler, we built an open source, decentralized Matrix protocol chat app. Matrix protocol is used by France and Germany, countries that care about data privacy. All their government websites are on the Matrix protocol. It allows real people to communicate without algorithmic manipulation. We need to stop begging big tech to actually trust, to bring trust back by rooting us in facts. We need to build our own infrastructure for truth. Governments, you heard this a little earlier, governments need to recognize that public interest technology is critical defensive architecture. Just as countries invest in military defense and cybersecurity, they must invest in defending the information infrastructure. Democracy requires it. Treat information integrity as a matter of national security, because it is. We need binding international standards to defend information integrity, just as we have for nuclear weapons and climate change. This is not a free speech issue, these regulations. This is a public safety issue, the same way you have public safety codes for buildings, right? This is public safety. Third, global investment in systemic solutions. Let's stop playing whack-a-mole. I co-chair the International Fund for Public Interest Media, bringing immediate help to journalism, journalist organizations in the Global South. But it isn't just the billions in the Global South that are suffering today, it is the entire world. If trends are not reversed, we could see the death of small and medium-sized news organizations around the world within 6 to 8 months. Last week at the UN, we saw seeds of new multilateralism. 2 years ago, 35 nations, led by Canada and the Netherlands, signed a global declaration on information integrity online. This year, 20 nations, led by Chile and Brazil, Latin America, brought that online into the real world. What happens in the virtual world does not stay in the virtual world, right? Got to bring it into the real world. Let me talk about this as I close, the battle for humanity's soul. Technology has enabled impunity. It's created an epidemic of loneliness, bringing out the worst of who we are as people. We now fight for the soul of humanity itself. In every major world religion, and yes, I'm walking into religion, the battle isn't out there in all of our religions, it's actually inside. It's in you, in your conscience. So you go back to that one question. What are you willing to sacrifice for the truth? In every authoritarian playbook, the pattern is the same. Use technology to spread lies, attack the press, capture the courts, divide society. Make it so civic engagement can't exist because the facts, they don't know what the facts are. We've seen this assault happen worldwide. But we've also seen when citizens defend democracy. We've seen in my country, in Brazil, I joke that we've moved from hell to purgatory, while some countries are going to hell. It can get better. The fight for facts is the defense of freedom. The fight for truth is the defense of justice. We are standing on the rubble of the world that was. If you accept that, then you can begin to see the world as it is and begin to imagine and create the world you want. That's this moment. So please, please, jump in, act now, before it's too late. Thank you.
Please welcome Farah and Nayeri to the stage. Thank you, Maria.
Ladies and gentlemen, delighted to be here with you, absolutely overjoyed. I don't want to turn my back to anyone, and delighted to be here with Maria. What an honor for me. May I start by wishing Maria a happy birthday, very happy birthday again. If we had enough advance notice, there would be a cake and candles, but unfortunately we only just...
Too many candles on it though, right?
Yeah, no. I wanted to ask my first question about your book. A year after winning the Nobel Peace Prize in 2021, you published a book titled How to Stand Up to a Dictator. For those of you in the audience who are we're getting ready to clash with a tyrant, this is a very good manual. It's a great manual with practical guides and tips on how to stand up to a dictator. It's also a really good read. I think I can plug Maria's book. I'm not plugging my own. And all the more so because the paperback is now out, and it's number 3 on the nonfiction New York Times bestseller list. So, hey. So that's a nice birthday present.
It was
anyway, Maria, in the book you write that democracy is fragile, that we have to fight for every bit, every law, I'm quoting you, every safeguard, every institution, every story, that we must hold the line. But you also say, this is what many Westerners, for whom democracy seems a given, need to learn from us. This book is for anyone who might take democracy for granted, written by someone who never would. Since your book came out 3 years ago, it has become more apparent that to many Westerners, democracy has been a given and something that they may well have taken for granted. It's certainly suffering setbacks right now and in unexpected places. And I just wanted to ask you, what is your view of the state of democracy in the West?
My gosh, where to begin? I'm teaching in Columbia University this time, right? So I started teaching in 2023 because I began to think that ground zero was moving to the United States. And it did. If you look at every Democratic leader today, they're under constant attack. And I'll say this, if you look at it online, it's almost like every leader we have is standing on wood and there's termites eating the wood. I call it information warfare, right? I mean, that's the impact on the leader. So what's the state of democracy today? Fragile, about to break. The last 2 minutes of a basketball game, right? So it's part of the reason, last year there were 74 major elections around the world. And I think I accepted every single speech because I wanted to talk to the people who would be voting, to tell them not to rely on this, to tell them to go and do what you can now. So that's it. This is the moment. You heard me just say it. If you're still hiding, if you're still ducking, thinking that it doesn't affect you, oh, it soon will.
Yeah, sobering words. In a stirring speech that Maria gave last week at the UN General Assembly, I urge you to go to YouTube or wherever and listen to it. You sounded alarm bells about the state of journalism, which is your profession, but also mine. You said news organizations have lost their gatekeeping power because an atom bomb called social media had exploded in the information ecosystem, an atom bomb. And you described it as an information Armageddon. Really, really big, powerful words, where lies spread 6 times faster than facts. Now, how do you see the future of journalism, which is the business we're both in?
If journalism dies, democracy dies, right? That's a direct connection, and that's the Norwegian Nobel Committee. But let me phrase it this way. Let me say I am an optimist, right? And so when I was writing that speech for the UN, I couldn't decide whether to use the moment, to describe the moment as an information Armageddon, or an information apocalypse. Because I'm an optimist, I chose Armageddon, right? Because an apocalypse, the world ended. But Armageddon, you can still fight for it. So I am an optimist. And look, democracy and journalism, they go hand in hand. They're entwined. And I think some people have already checked out, have already said journalism is dead. You just have to look at the advertising numbers. Journalism, our business model is dead, but without journalism, what do we lose? It's funny because the median age in Rappler is 23 years old, and since I'm above 60, I'm 62 today, so and what better way to spend my birthday than to talk to you about democracy, right? And how we need to protect it. My team was saying, does the world really need journalists? Because they've staked so much of their life and their freedom at this. Journalists are not influencers, no offense, influencers. But we in Rappler, in order to do our jobs, we were ready to get jailed. Yeah, for over 100 years. At one point, that was cumulatively the sentence that all the cases had. But we looked at the worst case scenarios for us. What happens if we get shut down? What happens if we do this? Embrace your fear, and then workflow how you conquer whatever that worst thing is. And that's how we got to fighting for democracy. Because I think a decade from now, people are going to ask you, what did you do at that moment?
Oh, thank you. The long-standing motto of the New York Times, as you know, is without fear or favor. And certainly that is obviously your motto as well. As we've seen, you've shown yourself to be really fearless in your battle for democracy. How can someone in your position not have fear? How can you be so fearless, Maria?
So people ask this all the time, right? Where do you find courage? How can you be fearless? It's hard to answer that because it's not about that.
Yes, it is.
Well, think about it like this, right?
I mean, if they applied those sentences, you'd go to jail for more than 100 years. Okay. So, I mean, that's scary.
But let's talk about our standards and ethics and our values as journalists, right? Do you only carry them out when it's easy and you're not under attack? Or do you live them, right? And so for me, it wasn't one conscious decision. I didn't say, I'm okay with this, I'm okay with this. What I did do was to take step by step the choices I had already made when I was much younger, the standards and ethics, the values I live by, and I just kept walking it. And the world changed around me. The moment I knew the world changed was the first time I got arrested, because I was like, oh my God, the world has really changed. But here's the thing, and I'm gonna go to a science fiction writer because I love science fiction and we're now living in a Black Mirror episode, right? Ursula Le Guin has this great quote, and I'm gonna paraphrase it slightly. You used to think that the mage, the older magician, right? You used to think that the mage, as you gain in power, would have many, many more choices in front of them. But the reality is that the older and wiser you get, the narrower the path becomes until you can only choose one. Every choice you've made when you were younger. So the moment you figure out who you are is the moment you fight for the values you believe in.
Excellent. It's nice to have you with us and not in a prison cell, let me tell you. Rodrigo Duterte, who I don't need to introduce, the former president of the Philippines, as you were saying moments earlier, was arrested last March. He is awaiting trial at the International Criminal Court for crimes against humanity. I don't need to recall his crimes. You know his crimes. And he's the biggest adversary that you've ever had. He is your nemesis. He's also the man whose relentless vendetta against you put you in the global spotlight. In fact, it may have led you to winning the Nobel Peace Prize. You would have won it perhaps anyway, but he helped. Sorry to say. So how do you feel now that he's in a jail cell in The Hague? You, personally, you, Maria, the woman, versus Rodrigo, the man, sitting in jail. How do you feel about that?
Look, it was never personal for me, right? As a reporter, you know this. It's not a personal thing. When on July 8th, I still remember the days, I wake up and there's President Duterte on national television attacking me, one journalist. It's an asymmetrical warfare, but I just did my job. And what he did do, and this he will be tried for, is kill anywhere from what the police claims is about 8,000 people to, as of December 2018, what our Commission on Human Rights said was at least 28,000 people killed in a brutal drug war, right? People are getting killed, and I never would have understood this. You know, we look back at history and you go, what were people thinking? Why didn't they stop it? We are living through it now, right? History will come back to us. But how do I feel? It goes back to these big words. Impunity ends. That justice, rule of law, these words matter. And you cannot take them away without affecting each of our lives.
But you must have personal feelings about this guy. I want to hear your personal. What are you feeling, Maria?
He's so funny. I mean, look, as a person, I've interviewed him, right? He's like, people will say he's like the grandfather you want to have a beer with.
Really?
Weirdly enough, I mean, he flatters you. He tries to kind of, you know, speak off the cuff about everything, and because he didn't follow what power is supposed to follow, he did. He seemed different, but when he took office, I looked at the 6 contradictions of this man and realized our country is not going to be the same. Let me add with how history changes in front of your eyes, right? You may not know our President Marcos today is the son of our former dictator, Ferdinand Marcos Jr., who declared martial law in 1972 by executive order.
The husband of Imelda. Everyone's heard of Imelda and her shoes.
Yes. So this is his son, and you know, we watch, in order for him to get elected on social media, history changed. It went from Marcos the kleptocrat, the father, who was kicked out in a people power revolt, to the greatest leader the Philippines has ever known. It's very easy to change history in front of your eyes on social media. And with generative AI, it gets even easier, right? So here's the thing, he's done better than people had expected. So what does that show us about where history will lead us? It's fascinating to be here at the birthplace of democracy and to feel like maybe it is a cycle of history, but this cycle, we're fighting machines, and that will require more from us than the ones ahead of us.
Thank you, Maria. Sadly, I
didn't answer your question, did I? How do I feel? Justice for now. Let's get the trial out. Let's go.
That's a good answer. Unfortunately, much as I would have liked to have 3 or 4 hours with you, I only have 1 more minute. And so I wanted to finish on a question, again, a little bit personal, nothing too private. I'd like to know, Maria, if in your life you have these projects or things that you'd like to do that you haven't been able to do yet. What is still left for Maria Ressa to do?
Oh my gosh. You know, I play 8 musical instruments.
Which one?
8. Yeah,
Okay.
I play the piano, but almost every string instrument, because I wanted to be the concert mistress of our orchestra, right?
So we can play duets.
What things I would love, was hoping the 2024 elections would push us into a new trend. It's part of the reason I kept running, right? And now we're in a little darker place, Europe in particular, so much is on your shoulders. I'm hoping that I can actually go back to music. Here's the last part. In order to get through this moment, I think it's thinking fast, thinking slow. And we journalists have you always on thinking slow. We're the artists and the humanitarians who will inspire us to move to protect democracy at this moment.
Okay, I still have another question. Sorry. Because listening to you, I ask you, how do you feel? You give these fantastic they're very, very eloquent, but you give these answers that are kind of diplomatic, to many questions. And have you ever thought of being a politician?
Oh my God, no, thanks. No, but part of this
Why not?
Look, I love the tech. I sound like I hate technology. I'm not a Luddite. Everything I told you is backed by data. This again, the Black Mirror episode, the part that keeps me inspired. Here's what I want to do next, right? How can we use the data and technology for good? And you have some of those instances now, but overwhelmingly, profit has driven that motive, and that's been left behind. So that's my goal. We hope to. Yeah, sorry. I don't really have a life outside of what we're doing right now. What can I tell you? No, Rappler. That's my other life.
Great. Thank you so much, Maria. You've been a terrific.
Thank you.